Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Max Mobile Celebrity Podcast. I am your host, AJ, and I'd definitely like to introduce. We have a newcomer on our show. She's definitely a veteran in the entertainment field, and she's a professional comedian. Miss Alicia Cooper is with us today. She's our new host, and we got two queens now. We got Alicia, and we also have our Queen Shonda.
Good
And
morning.
I want to say
Or good
hello, everybody.
afternoon.
Yeah, it's a good afternoon. I know it feels
Hello.
like morning. I know. And Alicia made a point that we got a northeast group here from New York. We got Maryland, New York, and New Jersey in the house. And actually, our guest today, he's a professional drummer, and I'm not even going to mention the people because he's been with everybody. But he's a professional drummer. Is going to be joining us around 12:15, and his name is Johnny Kroom. And
Yes,
Johnny
yes.
is a high-end professional drummer that's going to be our special guest this afternoon out of Philly. So it's going to be a really exciting show today. And
So,
we're going to start off by introducing Alicia. Alicia, I'd like to tell our audience a little bit about your background. How'd you get started in comedy? Was it
Ooh,
something from your
that,
family?
that
Was it
that's a
something that you? I know
that's a
that's a
long
log by
story.
itself.
What got me interested in comedy was HBO's Def Jam. Because
Oh, okay.
growing up, industry was everything in America started out really clean. If you go back to I Love Lucy, Lucy were married and had to sleep in separate beds and had to have one foot on the floor. So everything starts out gruesome. And what happened with comedy, even the African American comics, they couldn't curse. They were all really mainstream. So I didn't even notice like Arsenio Hall and people like that. They were comics, but they had to do it a certain way. Even Richard Pryor to get on the late night shows, he had to do it the Bill Cosby way. You had to be clean.
Right.
hmm,
So when I saw HBO Def Comedy Jam and them people was ripping the band-aids off scabs and cussing everybody out, and I mean I was on the floor. I had never seen a group of black folks like this that was so funny, so creative, was able to use every word in the English language, and they
and then
did.
some.
And then
Yeah.
some. They created a
Exactly.
few new words. And I was like, where have these black folks been all my life? And
Hmm.
that's when I realized that people were making a living as stand-up comedy. I didn't even know you could make a living.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they've been out there.
So now I'm hilarious, and I've been told I was funny my whole life. I'm like, I need to be doing this. So I started trying to do stand-up, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know
Oh,
people were
okay.
writing jokes. I thought everybody was just jumping on stage, being
Being
improv
funny.
and being natural self off the school bus in the back like we used to.
You're right.
Hmm.
These people have been writing jokes and performing them on the road for 5, 6 years before you saw them on Def Jam. So they
Wow.
looked like they were just talking off the cuff, but they weren't. They had prepared, tried and true material that they knew kills. And I didn't know that. So I'm jumping on stage with nothing, just thinking I'm supposed to be naturally funny. And I was bombing, crashing, and burning. And I was like, well, I was told I was funny my whole life. This
So
harder than
what
I
happened?
thought. It wasn't
Mm.
until I realized this was a specialty.
Right, right,
And
right, right,
you have
right.
to
Yes,
take it
craft.
seriously, that it's a craft, that I started crafting material and writing, and then I started, seeing some positivity. But it's a full-time job to do stand-up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It
Who
is.
were some of your mentors?
Um, when I first started, I didn't have any. That's why I didn't know what I was doing. But then I started in Maryland. When I moved to LA, I was working on different talk shows and I was producing TV shows, and then I started meeting other comics. So I can't say I necessarily had mentors, but I did have different people that when I would see them, I would ask them questions and they would be helpful. So,
Mm. Okay.
I worked on the Parkers, where Monique and Countess Vaughn were the stars of that. And one
Mm-hmm.
day I was riding with Monique and I asked her things about comedy, and Monique was like, what I want to tell you is get half your money before you leave the house and the other half before you open your mouth. She said, because
Okay.
if they get the show out of you, they ain't got to pay you.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
And they're
There
gonna
you
have all
go.
kinds of excuses. So I said,
There you
okay.
go.
So that's why the big wigs get their money up front. And then
That makes
I talked
sense.
to Cheryl Underwood, and Cheryl Underwood said, don't do like me. She said, I started out dirty. She said, when you start out blue, it's harder to go backwards because all people see you as is blue. She said, so start out clean and then go dirty if that's what you want to
Mm.
do.
Gotcha.
So I started writing all clean material after she told me that. So, just listening to the greats and then heeding what they said.
That's awesome. What an interesting background. You know what? I got to give you a lot of credit, Alicia, because I think a lot of people wouldn't have gone back once they started getting booed or like that. A lot of
Right.
people, they wouldn't, and it's
Yeah.
almost in anything. You're playing live or you're on stage, you're performing in front of somebody,
Yeah.
and you start getting booed. A lot of people don't have the strength to come back after that. It's like, oh, I can't do this. So I got to give you a lot of credit on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Alicia,
Hey,
what I would like
it's
to
not
do
easy.
is for our no, it's not. Being professional is not easy at all. That's why they call it call professional comedy.
Right. Right. Right.
What I would like to do for our viewers is I like to play a skit, a YouTube, just a couple minutes of Alicia performing live, and I think that you're really gonna like it. Let me see if we can get this going here. This is one of my favorite ones. Okay, here we are. This is Alicia Cooper.
Hey, thought I was Marsha Warfield. We all look alike. How y'all doing? This is amazing. I love New York City. I love everything about it. Have y'all been on YouTube and saw that ALS challenge for Lou Gehrig's disease? Have y'all checked that out? Oh, that is amazing. They've raised over $100 million. But I didn't know anybody personally that had ALS. So I started a challenge for people who had something I know about. Hemorrhoids. We doing the wedgie challenge.
Oh,
We yanking people's drawers up over their head like suspenders
stop
and
it.
hanging them on fences. We're like, hashtag hemorrhoids. If y'all not laughing about that, it's because you probably got hemorrhoids and your ass is hurting. That is a funny joke. On the way up, I was listening to the music. I pay attention to the lyrics because the lyrics rarely match what's going on in the artist's life. I'm on the way up, I'm listening to Beyonce and Jay-Z. They have a song called On the Run. They said, I don't care if we on the run, just as long as I'm next to you. I was like, you was next to him in the elevator when your sister was whooping his ass. And you ain't do a damn thing to help. So I turned the channel, Chris Brown. These hoes ain't loyal.
Ooh,
Football hoes ain't supposed to be loyal. That's why they hoes. How you gonna put food on the table being a loyal hoe? How you gonna pay your bills with one client? That don't make no sense to me. Then I turned the channel. They said R. Kelly was supposed to be a pedophile, right? So I said I'm gonna pay attention to the lyrics because if that's the case, it will come out in the lyrics. Turn the channel. I hear a song by him that says, "My mind's telling me no." I'm like, his mind is telling him no because she's 12.
Okay. Boy, I tell you, she's
that's about right.
that is exactly. Anyway, that was just a few minutes of Alicia
Right.
Cooper, a professional comedian. Oh, I see my man is over here. Uh, okay, Johnny Krum is with us in the house now. He's in the groom room. We bring him in, and I want to introduce everybody. Johnny Krum has a background that is phenomenal. Phenomenal artist. He's a professional drummer, percussionist. The list just goes on. The people that he has played with, from Boyz II Men and Teddy, and I'll tell you some of our favorite artists from back in the day, Kim Burrell. But I want to bring him in, and we want to welcome Johnny Krum, actually all the way from Philly. Johnny, how you doing, my brother?
Hey man, all is well. How are you?
Hey, every time I get a chance to wake up, put our feet on the floor, boy, it's another blessed day.
Yes,
Hey,
yes.
Hey, my pinky toes are jumping. My pinky toes are jumping every morning.
Look at that. I can see you in your studio right there. I see your keyboard over there. Jack,
Yes.
look at that.
Uh-oh. My
That's
phone
what's
is
up.
acting a fool.
Johnny, I want to say thank you for. 'Cause I know you're a very, very busy man. I want to say thank you for joining us today. And I tell you, you have an awesome, awesome background. I mean, it's amazing. Your reference and your bio is just phenomenal.
Oh,
Tell us,
thank
how
you.
did you get started playing drums? I mean, you probably started back. Did you play in high school?
I, s-
How did you get started?
I started in junior high school. Well, actually, I started in elementary school. I started as a guitar player.
Mm.
And I have the old story of starting an instrument and getting your band together and everybody quitting on you kind of thing,
Mm.
and you get frustrated and whoever quits, you learn their instrument. So,
That part, yeah.
and that's how I
That
ended
is
up.
old school because they don't do that no more.
Yeah, they don't do that no more.
They sure don't.
So that's
Look,
how I
you quit,
learned to,
they quit now.
yeah, that's how I ended up, learning so many instruments. It wasn't there was no genius in it. It was just hardcore. I'm angry because you quit.
Yeah.
And it moved from guitar to basically drums, and then from drums to other things.
You
Wow.
know, what were some of your influences? Because we grew up in the same generation, and we grew up listening to a lot of hits. You and I was having a conversation the other day. I was saying, if you noticed that, I remember Casey Kasem, and
Yes,
if
sir.
you noticed that back in the day, we had a top 100.
Yes,
And I
sir.
was sitting here, thinking about that. And I said, that's interesting. They don't have a top 100 today anymore.
Mhm.
And I think really the reason why, because you don't have 100 artists out here
That's
that are really
absolutely
doing
right.
anything, and
That's
that's the reason why it has declined quite a bit. And now these kids are playing our push button. They're everything is software oriented in regards to their music, and you got to be creative no matter what you do. But you don't see kids anymore. When I go to the neighborhoods and watch these kids, coming from on the school bus, they're not carrying instruments anymore,
no,
and
sir.
that's a big change. And I think that when the government turned around and took that bill out, and taking the public school, taking the budget, and taking the money out of the public school system for that art program, I think that was a big injustice for these kids because that's playing instruments or anything that's artistic is part of our mindset, and I think it's much more your creativity. That's where it comes from. So, what were some of your influences as far as Johnny? Did you have any relatives that played instruments?
Actually, no, I didn't. I was the first in my family to play. But my basic influences were in the early years were Earth, Wind, and Fire, and just basically who whoever my mom would play on her record player. And it wasn't Earth, Wind, and Fire at that point. I listened to a lot of Al Green.
Mm.
I listened to a lot of music that was kind of soulful, and I knew it kind of moved people. Um, and I was just really interested in the way the music just would just move people. I just didn't
Hmm.
understand that. After a while, when you get to know the song, of course it moves you. But
Mm.
it was so much music in my house that my mother played in the early years that it just inspired me to play. And and she would play a lot of BB King, and I never
Okay.
did. I never was a blues player or anything like that. I was playing the things that you and I know.
Mm.
Right.
So I would spend all day learning a song or learning this, that, and the other, and she would tell me, "Boy, you're not doing nothing. You got to pick that thing." Like BB King, you got you got to pick that thing. you know.
Yeah.
And I would be working on I don't know, my Earth, Wind, and Fire, my Ohio players, whatever it was that I was working on. But it wasn't her generation, and all that she would hear is, "I don't care what you're playing, you're no BB King." you know.
That's a then you know what that's a sister there.
Yeah, absolutely. And she
That's
was
a
my
real sister there.
and she was my number one supporter.
Yeah.
She was my number one supporter. She was never negative in any of my upbringings. She really thought that if I wasn't playing some kind of blues, that you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Listen to this
Mhm.
BB King. I'm telling you, you need to play like this.
Well, BB King was definitely embedded.
This, this,
She had an
this,
ear, but she didn't tell you you gotta pick that thing. She
you
knew what
better
she was
pick
hearing.
that thing.
Exactly. That is so
All
funny.
right, Mama. I
But
love it.
you all would have to see that thing because the whole way she would just go like, "You ain't doing nothing. Pick that thing.
Mhm.
Get on out of here."
It's too funny.
But that was my early years, and from there I started playing the drums around the 8th grade,
Uh-huh.
and somewhere around in there I was doing so much music. Um, in the 8th grade, we would have people who would show up that wouldn't play instruments and things like that, and I would fill in the instrument. And my teacher thought that I was kind of special in terms of being able to play instruments, but I really wasn't special. I was just I was angry. And
Mhm.
I wasn't angry at anyone. I was angry because nobody took music serious. They would
Mhm.
come in and I wanted to learn, and I was not as good as the people that I wanted to be like. And all that I could think of is that, man, I have a long way to go, and you guys are messing around. So I learned to play the bass, learned to play keyboards, whatever it was that I needed to do. That's what I did. I
Awesome.
I, I
Awesome.
wish I had that kind of hunger today. You know, I don't have that
Well,
anymore.
you've done it for almost about 4 generations, bro.
Yeah,
that's, that's,
something like
that's a
that.
long time.
Time to be
Yeah,
taking up everybody's instrument.
yeah, something like that.
Wow.
John, I got to ask you this one question though. Just like you, we grew up in the hood, and we grew up around where everybody was, playing instrument, playing music all the time. And I grew up. I was fascinated listening to people like Isaac Hayes,
Hmm.
and especially Barry White, doing
Hmm.
orchestral music. Because growing up, we didn't know black folks were playing orchestra.
Hmm.
And so and they kind of modernized it. They took
Hmm.
orchestra pieces and they kind of modernized it back in the 70s. But I
Hmm.
got to ask you, I wanted to get a drum kit. It was the first thing I wanted to do. It was a pearl. It was a pearl set,
Hmm.
and it took like months, like 3 or 4 months, for my mom to try to convince my dad to get a drum set in the house. And you know how it is back in the basement. Everything was all in the basement all
Oh
the time.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
they finally took about 6 months. They finally, I had to go down there and work it in the basement and get everything cleaned out and everything to get my drum kit. I was so excited. I was like, oh man, finally going to get my drum kit. So now I'm about 15 years old. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to get my first drum kit. And we get down to, there's a big place called House of Guitars up in Rochester, New York. And it was a big music store. It was like 3 floors. And you remember back in the day, Johnny, that you had the music places, and they had different levels. On each level,
Yes.
had one level was keyboards,
Yes.
another level might be guitars, stuff like
Yep.
that. I was like, that's how it
Hmm.
was back in the day. And because you don't even see that many music stores anymore,
No.
instruments compared to
No.
when we grew up. But I got to ask you this though: how in the world did you convince your mom to get a drum kit? Because it took
Ooh.
so long, and I never got the drum kit. I ended up, you know what I did? My mom went and talked to the salesman, and we're talking about drums, and I saw all these guitars hanging on a wall, and I was
Hmm.
fascinated with all the different colors and the shapes and sizes and everything. And I picked up the guitar and started twanging with it. And my mother got pissed off. She's like, "We've been spending all this time talking about drums, and you sitting up here playing around here with this guitar, you know." And so I never got it. Never got the drum kit. Ended up going home with a guitar, and it was a Fender Mustang.
Oh,
The very,
I
very first
remember the
guitar.
Fender Mustang.
Yeah, that was my
Yes,
very had the little stripe on it, red one with
yes,
the little white stripe on it. That
yes.
was my very first axe. And
Well,
so, how did you get your folks to convince them to get you a drum
Yes.
kit?
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna try to line this up as short as possible
Okay.
because all of these things go together. Okay, my guitar, I'm very familiar with your Fender Mustang because I had a Tesco, a Japanese
Okay.
Tesco, you
Okay.
know. So that Tesco took me to the 8th grade where the guys quit on me on get on in the band, and the other guitar player in the band, he convinced me to play drums for the band. So he knew a guy who played for, I believe he was playing for the Delphonics or the Stylistics or something like that. And he said he wanted to sell his old drums. So
Mm.
I was in the 8th grade. We went over to visit the guy. The guy had some Japanese drums. I'm sure you're familiar with the old Sparkle blue drums. You know,
Yep.
the
Hmm.
everybody had the Japanese blue drums. Well,
Exactly.
he had a million pieces to this set. It was probably 4 or 5 different drum sets that he pieced together, and
Wow.
he wanted I think he wanted $75 or $100 for the drums. And my mother, she was a day worker. She cleaned white folks' houses, so she didn't make a lot of money. So I called my mom and I told mom I need to get this drum set. And she says, well, how much is the drum set? And the guy told her, and she said, okay, I'm gonna come over. And she spoke to the guy. And to make a long story short, after my mom got finished speaking to her, because he was very stern on this number,
Hmm.
after my mom got finished speaking with him, he told my mother, uh, Miss Kroom, you take the drums, you pay me whenever you want to pay me. I've just never
Wow.
seen a mother like you that was so passionate about her son learning this
Oh,
instrument and doing
Wow.
That's
what he
phenomenal.
does. Now the
Wow.
second part is I had the blue sparkle drums. Now I'm in the 8th grade. I had those drums all the way up to the ninth. I mean, all the way up to the 11th grade or somewhere around in there. And I had taken the drum set and put. You remember the contact paper that people used to put on their walls, like the wood grain and all of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I had went to the department store and got some wood grain contact paper and contact papered my drums because they were all different sets. You know, they were different colors. They were so I made them one color, and it was crazy because as I was going, I guess as I was getting better, getting great gigs, getting better gigs, and all of these kind of things, I would come on the gig and everybody would just laugh at my drums. You know, it would be
Mm.
like, whose raggedy ass drums are these? You
Yeah.
know,
And
Oh,
that was not
but
fun.
yeah,
That's embarrassing.
and I started playing for reputable people, you know. So when somewhere around the 10th grade, or no, I think it was the 11th grade and whatnot. I was working and I was doing everything I can do to come up with this money to get these drums and stuff, and I just couldn't do it. So I went to my mom, and I would never ask my mom for anything. You know, the only thing that I would ask her for is things that would help me in a big way, you know. So I told her I needed the drums, and of course she didn't have the money. And my father had never been in our life, pretty much all our lives, but he was a good guy. And my mom, she always taught us, don't be upset with your dad. Whatever's between me and him has nothing to do with you. You know, you go see your dad if you want to see your dad. She always made it her business
mhm.
to we were to love our dad. You know, we didn't do any of that, and she
That's a
was a
special
very
mom.
loving person. So
Special mom.
to make a long story short, again, I know it's getting kind of long. My
Oh, you
mom
okay?
said she called a few folks and to borrow some money, and nobody had the money. So she she got this look on her face, and she would never ask my dad for anything, nothing, and never was angry with her. And she called my dad, and my dad answered the phone, and it was the funniest thing. My dad, my my dad answered the phone and said hello, and my mom said, "This is Velma," and he said, "What's wrong?"
Like you calling me?
And
Somebody died. Somebody in the hospital.
now she trying to set it up, you know, because she's trying to, you know, to do the preliminaries or what have you, how you been, so
Yeah.
forth and so on. And anything that she would say, he
He's
would
like,
just
what's
say,
wrong?
"What's wrong?"
Be
He's
like,
like,
I
let's
know
cut
there's
to
a
the
reason for this.
exactly. Let's cut to the chase here.
So she said, "Well, Johnny's been doing pretty good with this music thing, and he's come to a crossroad where he needs some drums." And he instantly went, "I don't have no money."
Mm.
Boy, I had never seen my mom go off like that before in my life. She
Wow.
she told my dad, "Don't you ever call here again." Mind you, my dad never called us anyway. And now I'm thinking, what kind of strategy is this? You know, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's going to work. Well, I've never asked you for anything and such and this, that, and the other. This boy needs these drums, and she hung up the phone. And my mom, she was not an angry person. I mean, I've never seen my mom angry. I've seen my mom angry
Mm.
maybe 2 or 3 times, but that was one of the
Wow.
2 or 3 times. And in about a half an hour, my dad was knocking on my door
Wow.
and came in and said, "All right, this boy needs some drums. We're gonna go down here and look at these drums." Now, here's the big part right here, AJ. As you said, when you would go into music stores, they would have the different floors. Well, this one was one floor, but they would have the departments. So the drums were all kind of, I guess, on shelves all around the store. All kinds of drums, nice drums.
Hmm.
So being to which I knew my dad was going to get the drums, the salesman, he asked me, "Which set do you want? Do you want this one? Do you want that one? Do you want that one?" I picked up the catalog. And what's on the front of the cover of the catalog, their flagship set, I want
Hmm.
that. So I
Wow.
got that set. And my dad, he looked at that thing.
He was like,
What did I walk into now, boy? Your dad already made a decision. You're gonna be a pro.
Absolutely.
You're gonna make some
Absolutely.
money out of this.
Absolutely. And then my mom's thing was you gotta pick it like BB King. And my dad's thing was hit one for your dad. Hit one for your dad.
"One for your dad."
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
that's basically I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah,
that
you
covered
did.
the gambit,
Yeah.
Did it
know.
include the zildjian symbols?
Oh no, that was a whole
No,
nother thing. It was
that's a whole
just
nother
drums. Yeah.
thing.
That was another journey,
Oh, okay,
But I
That
worked
is
that one
but
okay,
out myself.
but Johnny, when
okay.
you went back with them sparkling new drums,
Oh, it
how's
was
everybody
crazy.
treating you then?
Well, it was actually the exact opposite because the set that I bought was literally probably the best set that you can get at that time. I think those
Wow.
those drums was like maybe about $2,000.
Oh, that was a lot
And
of
and
money
this
back
was
then, man.
this
That was
was in
high end back
yeah,
then, man.
this was like in 78, 79. It was a lot of
Ooh,
money.
Ooh.
that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of
It was
money.
a
How
lot.
your daddy go from I ain't got no money to let me drop this 2 grand
You
down?
ain't lying, boy. That's a car right there, Alicia. That's a car.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
That
And I
sure
Woo.
is.
and every and matter of fact, from that point, I was already doing well, playing with artists, making my way up the scale, if you will. But when I got those drums, it opened doors like crazy,
Mm.
because we would be on shows and stuff, and I had them in anvil cases, and they would take the drums out the cases, and they would go, "Who? What the heck? Whose stuff is this?"
Yeah, you
Such
got
and
a
such.
flagship. That was a Rolls
Right.
Royce there.
Yeah,
They
Anvil
tell
cases
you
too. Them cases are expensive.
took your
yeah.
your craft seriously. They're like, okay, so we got a pro
Oh yeah, it
up
was
in
good.
here.
Yeah, it was good.
Wow.
Matter of fact, by the time that I really started doing road work and stuff like that, um, the fun was somewhat over. I mean,
Mm.
I appreciated doing the road because, in other words, it was another level at that point. It wasn't the thing that we were running around trying to get gigs or get attached to such and such and all of those kinds of things. It just ended up working out. So, and
That's
Johnny,
that's
who did
phenomenal.
you go on the road with first? Do you remember your first tour?
Gene Carn and Jeffrey
Mm.
Osborne.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh man.
Ooh.
yeah,
Jean Carr. Oh my goodness. I
yeah,
remember we
Yeah.
had her albums at the house.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That
And
was my.
Jeffrey Osborne is still doing his thing
Yeah,
too.
he is. He
He
is.
really is.
Yeah.
So
Is
so
he
Johnny,
from
when you
Philly?
He
No,
no.
Or Jeffrey?
not
Oh,
Jeffrey.
okay.
Mm-mm.
He's not okay.
Johnny, when you hooked up with Osborne at that time, wasn't he still? He wasn't with LTD.
No, he
Just
was running.
leaving.
He was doing his own tour.
Oh, he went solo then. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I was playing with Gene Carn. It was his tour,
okay.
and we were the opening act for his tour. We did I don't know, maybe a year or 8 months, something like that.
Nice gig.
Yeah.
That's a long time. But they toured a lot back then. A lot. I mean, or I don't know if it's the same, what's obviously different, but I felt like years ago artists toured way more than they do in recent years, or skip the pandemic. But do you have an artist or a memory that you always felt like, okay, I really gotta be, not that you weren't on point, but this artist, this particular person would just go left sometimes, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, they didn't
Well,
change them.
well, yeah. It's quite a few of those.
You know how they get. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's quite a few of those. But um, I don't know how to express it without. I don't want to be negative on their situation,
Hmm.
and it's not really a negative thing because I can tell you what it is, but I don't want them to look at it in
Right, right, right,
another
right.
way, you know. But for the most part, I can tell you the things that shook me up, and I'll tell you when I was with Boys to Men,
Mm.
Brooke Payne, he taught me a lot. You know, he taught me a lot, and and he let me slide. I won't say a lot because there was no sliding and what have you. But Brooke Payne, I don't know if you all are familiar with
Mhm.
Brooke,
Mhm.
but
Hmm.
Brooke is he's a one man army. You know, he's a one man army, and he just knows how to get stuff done,
Yep.
and he does it in a way that that he makes himself accountable in such a large way that you have to follow.
Right.
You know, you have to follow. He's always on time. Whatever he says, whatever comes out of his mouth, it's going to happen. That's how he is. So if you're working with him or if you're doing anything with him and you're not on point like that, it makes things a little difficult,
And
you
he
know.
wasn't a musician. He just kind of
No.
knew, how to make everything come
Yes.
together, congeal, and put all
Yes.
the pieces together. And that's important to have, because a lot of creative minds, they kind of know, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like somebody has to orchestrate all this. And boys, the
Exactly.
men, them boys can sing like nobody's business.
Yeah.
It could really, really, really sing. And I know you have Miss Patti LaBelle. You have all the Philly greats on your resume. How was it working with Miss Patti?
Patty, I've played for Patty a few times. I've never toured with her. Most of the dates that I've done with her have been some spot dates or award shows,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But it's always been good working with her. It's always. I was trying to find this clip. I was trying to find this clip when we did Teddy 25. Patty was on the show, and we played behind Patty. Um, and at the end of the song, she it's a big drum in, ending
Drum
where it's like
solo.
like
Okay.
yeah, well, just an ending. It's
Okay.
like ba da 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 bam, and you're just holding it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Patty comes over to me and she's like all of this as if to say, keep going, keep going. And I was doing all of this stuff about to have a heart attack, you know. She must have saw something in me because I said blop, and then she said blop.
That's funny. That's
And
funny.
I was trying to find it on YouTube this morning. I'm trying hard now because I didn't reference my journey. I didn't really I don't really have a lot of references of the things that I've done. So, and I've never been good with that. I don't like talking about that stuff and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot because I'm the kind of person that somewhat, if it's something, you know how somebody's standing beside somebody, like if you're standing beside Michael Jackson, somebody goes, "Oh, you're with Michael Jackson," and they ride that forever. You
Yeah.
know, I just never wanted to be that guy.
Right.
I never wanted to be that guy. I've always wanted to be the guy that's just grateful that God has put me in a position to do something that I really enjoy doing. So all of the accolades, or
Right.
not that anybody owes me any accolades. I'm just saying all of the praises to him. All of the thanks to him. Everything, big, small, or otherwise, to him.
Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
literally how I see it.
Mm,
So when I have to, what makes me uh, set things in a reference form is when I have to do things like we're doing right now,
right.
because you guys
Okay.
don't know me, so I have to have some kind of something that would that you can say, okay, you did this, you did those, or what have you. So that's
But
my
Johnny,
position.
with
Hmm.
that being said, I appreciate that, and like I said, I appreciate
Yeah.
that the fact that you even took the time out to even come on the show, which is
Absolutely.
phenomenal. And so, with that being
But
said, we're gonna go on
but
a
wait a minute.
commercial break. We're gonna
He's
go on a
gonna be
commercial
back
break.
after the commercial, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Johnny
Yeah.
Cruz.
We're taking a
Oh
quick
yeah, because I
commercial
wanted to
break.
talk to him about my uncle.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, we definitely get that in there. But anyway, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. You're listening to the Max Mobile Celebrity Podcast with our guest Johnny Kroom, and we'll be back in a moment. So everybody, go take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Wow.
A new day has come. Sable Ascent is taking your business around the world at no cost. We are connecting Black businesses in one global community, transacting with one currency, Sablecoin, creating one economy. Remember, you are not alone. A digital world is here. Register your business today at sableascent.com.
With this current pandemic, we know there's still a lot of business owners that feel they don't need a mobile app to sell products to their current customers. Well, at least that's what they think. And maybe that's been the case in the past. But if you want to prepare for the immediate future and start seeing massive benefits right out the gate, you need a mobile app from Max Mobile Pro to keep up in this fast lane of e-commerce. Not so easily convinced? There are many reasons why small business owners should embrace the revolution and invest in mobile apps. Here are just a few. Mobile apps are a great strategy to keep your customers engaged with your brand, offering unique features that are more relevant. More specifically, they act like gentle reminders that pull your customers back with real-time loyalty programs. One significant advantage of a mobile app developed by Max Mobile Pro is that it provides businesses with the opportunity to personalize their communications by leveraging user profile information. Companies are able to engage their customers individually in real time. An app provides brands with the tremendous opportunity to offer a highly personalized user experience and develop deeper relationships with customers, domestic and worldwide. To learn more how we can promote your brand using a custom mobile app, talk to our senior consultant by calling 813-403-7271. Once again, that number is 813-403-7271. Or visit us on the web at www.maxmobilepro.com. Your customers have all gone mobile. When will you?
Okay, welcome back, everybody, and you're listening to Johnny Kroom, professional percussionist and drummer with a phenomenal background. And I just want to say thank you so much, Johnny, for being able to share. To be honest with you, it's a legacy. It really is. People
Yes, it
really
is.
don't understand that you have done something that people are striving for, have been doing this for a long time. And when you have done something that first of all, your mother knew that her son was gifted. And that's why she would tell you to make sure that you're going to do it right. And that's basically all she's telling you to do. She used BB King as her reference because that was her
Hmm.
favorite. But the bottom line of it is that's a real sister. She saw the talent in her child,
Yes.
and she encouraged you and pushed you. And a lot of the sisters, that's what they do. And they don't get enough credit. They don't get enough credit for that. So
Absolutely.
I'm really glad that Mrs. Crone that she saw that and she pushed her son. And look where you are today.
I
So
appreciate that. I
yeah,
appreciate
man,
you
that's
saying that
that,
about my
yeah,
mother.
that's a phenomenal thing, man. Well, I said about our sisters because our sisters don't get enough credit. They don't get enough credit for the things
Hmm.
that we do. And so many moms are out here, single moms,
Hmm.
raising. I was raised by a single mom with 4 kids, and so just like you, turn into a professional musician. And my mother always told me one thing. She always says, she said, "I don't care what you decide to do." She said, "I don't care if you want to be a cook, a gardener. I don't care what it is. Just make sure you be the best at it."
That's right.
Hmm.
So,
That's right.
so
That's
I know,
right.
guys, that's a sister. So I know you heard that too from Johnny, and that's what your mom
Absolutely.
basically just telling you. If you're gonna go ahead and do this, do this like
Absolutely.
BB King.
Hmm.
Go ahead, Shonda.
I know, Johnny, you said something real poignant earlier before the break. Like, you didn't want to start, name dropping or whatever. But like AJ said, there are so many people out here that want to do what you do and want to have those type of opportunities. You're not bragging. You don't even come across that way. You're such a humble man and you have these extraordinary gifts and you have such a large story to tell because you've played from country to to R&B. Your resume has run the gamut of genres of music. So it is just an honor just to hear your experience and to be inspired by how you just push through so much to do what you do and to be where you are today. So I just want to give you props for that. And
Thank
in
you.
no way do we think that you're, name dropping. Well, you get to drop some names. You play with all these people. I mean, that's a lot. Do you see the differences? Like, how do you feel about the differences with the live instrumentation versus all of the um, studio work that's being done right now? Do you feel like that's taken away or adding to, the music experience?
Okay. Um, AJ and I, we were having a small conversation about this. Okay. What it basically is, in my opinion, it really has nothing to do with music.
Mm,
It does in the sense that it is music, but what it really has to do with is generations.
mm,
My generation, your generation, the generation that's happening now, so forth and so on. I'm going to make and I hope I don't sound crazy in trying to explain this, but if you go back to the times of, I don't know, Duke Ellington, well, let's take it back even further. Let's say Beethoven or some orchestrated thing or anything like that. They were used to musicians that just played instruments, and the instrument was something that you mastered because there was somebody who was writing music. And this person would write music and he would have to write it on paper and he would have to get musicians to come and play it.
mm-hmm.
Now, I know that that's what you all understand, but in today's time, that's kind of hard to understand. Let me explain what I'm saying. When you writing a piece of music prior to the computer, you can't hear what's being played.
Right.
Mhm.
And Earth, Wind, and Fire's day, any day before the computer, whatever you're hearing, take Boogie Wonderland, any piece of music from that day. Somebody wrote all of this out,
Right.
string parts, horn parts, all kinds of things, and what have you, and they never heard it played at one time together. So you think about that. Somebody's writing something down that they want somebody to play, but you're writing the piano part, then you're writing the horn part, then you're
Yep.
writing the such. How do you even know that this part is not going to bang into that part? Or how do you even know that this is too much because this going to come in right here? How do you
Uh-huh.
even know that? See, today you
Yeah.
do. Today
Yeah.
you do because you have a computer. You can reference. I can sit here now and I can play a piano part, and then I can come behind that piano part and play a string part. And then I can go, oh, that note there doesn't
Right.
exactly fit with this. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So the point that
Mhm.
I'm making from that reference is when people are talking about real musicians, they're really not talking about real musicians. They're talking about their generation, because the real musician situation goes way back so far that if you couldn't play an instrument, there was no music.
There was right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And
Straightforward.
not just if you, when you go back even further, if you couldn't read or write the music, there is
Exactly.
no
There is
music,
no music.
because
Right.
somebody had to write it down, and whatever they wrote down, they didn't even get a chance to hear. They can't hear it until they pass out the music and hear
Mm-hmm.
it played at one time.
Mm.
Now,
Mhm.
if you really understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
that's kind of deep.
It is deep.
That's kind of deep. That
Mhm.
when you're sitting there and you're writing all of this music, and
Ooh.
you listen to something that somebody did, and they never heard the parts played together at one time while they were playing it, but yet all of these
Mm.
things are going on. So
Wow.
that portion of things, that's one reference. Now the newer portion is, I grew up, or we all grew up, in a revolutionary time, that we came from that into this. Like, we're right on the line, a little past the line now, because there's very little live music going
Mm-hmm.
on, and urban music. Country and rock, I can't speak for any of that stuff, but in urban music. So nowadays, the kid that's coming up today, that's listening to music, he has no idea what you're talking about when you say you need to play an instrument. In other words, this is what you're telling them. You're
Mm-hmm.
telling them what my mom told me. You need to pick that thing. You understand what I'm saying?
I
You
hear
you
you.
need to pick that thing. Now, I didn't come up in BB King's era,
That
so I don't know what you're talking about.
right.
Other than when I hear him playing the guitar, I'm hearing something, and okay, I'm understanding what he's playing, and I can play that if I need to, but that's not my interest. My interest was doing even more. So nowadays, with what's going on musically, they don't have the reference that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So when they create music, like some kid today that may be 15, 16 years old, they have no idea what you're talking about when you're talking about Earth, Wind, and Fire, Isaac Hayes, or any of these things. And you can play their music, that still does not give them a reference.
Exactly.
Again, it's like saying you need to pick that thing.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
you ain't you. I could have. I remember times of playing on my guitar some very intricate things that I learned. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
I would play it around my mother and her friends or anybody from that era, and they're saying, "You
Yeah.
just framming that thing. You
Yeah.
need to pick
Hmm.
that thing.
Exactly.
You don't know what you're doing." And they didn't mean that in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that was their era.
Yep.
Now the era that we're in today is gone past what we know. So not just not just musically, now it's even bigger, because now it used to be a time, we just now came into a time that we recognize now that the artists we recognize now that record companies were never for artists,
Mm-hmm.
because if they were for artists, we would have that kind of support now.
Right.
Well, that's been going on since the beginning of record companies. The only difference was, um, in that day, in the earlier day, the label needed the artist, and the artist needed the label. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So it's kind of a marriage. It's kind of a marriage by default, because you needed them. Well, today the label doesn't necessarily need the artist. nor the artist need the label, depending on who you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're
Hmm.
Beyonce, you don't need the label, you know. But if you're somebody who's talented and you don't have the connections to promote, not to blow you up, not help you with your artistry, but to blow you up, promotional wise. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Hmm.
promotional wise, a label, that's probably their biggest thing right now. And today you have kids that blow
Right.
themselves up just as big as any
Exactly.
label.
On YouTube,
Social media, all
Again,
TikTok,
social
on
media.
right.
again, we're at a point now that this time that we're in right now is unheard of. You know, we've tapped into something that we've never been here before. So all that most people are doing is referencing what we know. We shaking up those same box of rocks that it's not even those box of rocks, because this thing has moved, and it's shown you that it's moved. It's showing you that it's moved because you have people who are pretty bright with business, people who are pretty bright with cyber things online, Facebook, YouTube, what have you. They're
Mm-hmm.
very bright with that. So they go on and they promote themselves, and a lot of them promote themselves, and they blow up. And we may look at the music, whereas, but it's nothing to the song. Well, you're talking about two different things.
Right, right,
You're
right,
talking about a
right.
song, and you're talking about business.
Mm-hmm.
That's two totally
Two
different
totally
things.
different
But
things.
it's always been like that, except we couldn't see behind the curtain in our day. Behind the
Right.
curtain was the label. We couldn't see what they were doing. All that
Exactly.
we just knew what they were doing, basically what they were saying. You know, we'll promote you, we'll, such and such and so forth and
Mm-hmm.
so on. Now today, uh, um, instrument wise, getting to your question now with the instruments, it's hard. It's hard for any young person coming into the business having the hunger of playing an instrument when everything that they listen to from the time they wake up in the morning, there are no instruments.
Right,
Right.
So what's to give
Mm.
you that kind of thirst? None
right.
of us ever liked music from somebody telling us about it. You understand what I'm
Mm-mm.
saying? Every
Mm-mm.
bit of music, every bit of artistry that you like that because of what you heard,
Right.
what you saw.
Exactly.
Today,
Yeah.
that's why, in my opinion, it's not a musical issue. It is because it is music, but it's not a musical issue because the issue is it's generation. You
Mm-hmm.
know, until somebody puts or stares music back to music from from the perspective of some young person. Now, some gifted young person who plays an instrument, a few of them can turn this around,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't play anything on average. On average, somebody that's from my generation, they're not going to play a whole bunch that's going to uplift the youth. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
Because I don't know what that is. Just like in my day, just like in my day, my mother, she didn't know what I was doing. She
Right.
she knew BB King, so
She knew it sounded good though.
yeah, well, she knew it sounded good, but her
Yeah.
whole her whole her whole thing was she wanted to hear what she knew.
Right.
Right.
She wanted to hear what she knew, and that's where all of this comes from. All of this is a generational reference from where you're from, and everybody that we know, everybody that I know, has an opinion or a word of music isn't music anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not, but that depends on who you're talking to,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because I can't tell some hip hop guy that his music is not music after he sold 10 million copies.
That's true.
Hmm.
I can't do that, you
Right.
know. And it may be out of sync, it may be out of time, it may be stuff that's all kinds of weirdness to it from a musical standard perspective. But remember, all music is let me get my vocabulary straight. All music is heard and opinionated. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You get your
It's a
opinion from
language.
what you hear.
Yeah, it's a language.
It's a language. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
it
So
really is.
so a lot of that language we'll never understand.
Right,
You
right,
know, a
right.
lot of that language we'll never understand because all well, most music that is literal with words is are stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why rap and hip hop is so powerful
Mm-hmm.
because their stories is way more powerful than our stories ever were. Our stories has always been stories of love. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're loving and such and such. Their stories are
The streets.
the streets. You know, the streets is what's going on. Our what's going on guy was Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He was
Yeah.
singing what's going on, and he was
Yeah.
singing "Ain't That Peculiar." You know, but
Mm-hmm.
all of these things we dancing half the time you're not even paying attention to the words. You busy
Right.
dancing.
It's the
You
beat.
Yeah.
know,
It's that
so
rhythm. It's that bottom.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's that track. So that's my. I hope I wasn't long-winded with that, but that's my opinion on where music stands today from real music or what people consider real music and something that's not real music.
Well, we are running thin on time, so I want to go ahead, Alicia. Want to go ahead and get some questions in.
But look at she's frozen. Her screen is frozen.
Alicia, can you hear us?
Oh, here's
Yeah,
another.
Alicia. But anyway, you know what, Johnny? To sum up everything that you just said, the bottom line of it is, if you take software out of the equation today,
Yeah, you're done.
these kids are
You're done.
lost.
You're done.
They're lost. Alicia, can you hear me? Can you hear us, Alicia? Yeah, I think she froze up a little bit. But yeah, these kids, that's all they know. They don't play instruments, they push buttons.
Yeah, well, that's but again, that's where we are now. You know, as time move forward, their button pushing that will be out of style. It'll be another
Another
something.
form
Yeah,
of
it'll be another
right.
form. You know,
Mhm.
my cousin just gave me a note saying something that that I used to say all the time, and one of the things that I would always say is that music is a music is what life sounds like. You know, it's a controlled noise.
Mhm.
It's
I
a
like that.
controlled noise. It's
Alicia,
what
can you
life
hear it?
sounds like.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, go ahead, Alicia. Alicia, you got some questions?
Oh, I think she froze again.
Wow.
Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
All of a
Yeah, we
sudden,
can
when
hear
I'm
you.
asking a question, everything goes crazy. I was thinking about how the kids were so impressed, Johnny, that Lizzo plays the flute. I mean, I was here to get Lizzo plays the flute. I mean, they were just so impressed that anybody could play an instrument because they don't
Mhm.
do it ever. So, but I wanted to say, my uncle, who grew up in Philly, he said he knows you. His
Oh,
name
really?
is Daryl Berry. He said he was the drummer because I texted him. I said, give me the background on
Oh,
where
yeah, I
y'all
know
worked together.
Daryl.
He said he was a drummer for the group
Winfield.
Atlantis and he played for Alvy Johns.
Yeah,
And
he lives in Winfield. Alvy Johns was one of my best friends. I actually took Alvy on the road with us with Boys to Men.
What a
Oh,
small
right.
world.
I
Yeah,
remember
Yeah.
because we're from the Maryland. We was out with Boys to Men. We were going
yeah,
all. But yeah,
yeah,
that was Daryl's best friend, Alvy.
yeah.
So he said to tell you hello.
Oh, that was my man. I know exactly him. Yes, he's a good guy too. Real
Yeah,
good
very
guy.
good guy. Very
Real
good
good
guy.
guy. Yeah, that's my man. Haven't seen him in
So
a long time.
yeah. Maybe
hmm
y'all can reconnect after this pandemic.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, but your story is just so wonderful. And I think about all the years and all the experience you have and everybody you've met. Because as us being entertainers, the only bad part to this or sad part to what we do is we meet so many people and we work with so many people and we lose so many people. Smokey
Yeah.
Robinson was talking about how, coming up in Motown, he said he don't even go to no more funerals because he said he done lost probably about 500 friends, and now Aretha
hmm
Franklin just passed away, and they grew up together.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the only thing that's so sad about what we do is just the nature of life and the natural stuff, and all the people that we knew that just through the process of life are no longer here with us.
Yeah.
Because I know you've known so many greats,
Well,
and it's just when you think back on it, you're like, wow, I can't believe how many people that passed through my orbit.
you know, it's strange you would say that, because a lot of people I've seen and met through just telling their story. AJ was just speaking on Isaac Hayes. We did a thing for Isaac Hayes, and I got it. We got a chance to meet him, and
Yeah.
it was overwhelming hearing him tell us that he's never heard his music played the way that we played it. He said that I've never heard my music played and it was so accurate. It was one of the award shows that we did, and they honored Isaac Hayes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And a few
awesome.
years after that, he passed. And the crazy part is, I saw him in the bathroom.
Well,
you know,
Wow.
after the show and stuff, I go to the bathroom, and who comes in? Isaac Hayes, and he's like, man, you guys are something else. And such and such. He was going on and going on. I've never, man, the way you all hit shaft and that, what's the tune he did? I stand accused. He's like,
Hmm.
man,
uh-huh.
that I stand accused, boy. That thing had me shaking up. And I'm standing in the bathroom like, okay.
Yes. That had to be a funny moment.
That was funny. That was really funny.
That had to be.
That was really funny. Yeah.
Johnny, we're running thin on time, but I knew we could go on for
Right.
another hour, man. Just listen to your accolades and everything. And you know what? I really appreciate what you're saying about the art itself, because the art has become, because you and I grew up in an analog age. That's
Yes,
that's
sir.
what we grew up in, and
Yes,
we
sir.
actually transitioned. We ended up analog, and we transitioned into the digital age. And these kids today, it's all digital. They don't know anything about analog.
Yes, sir.
And the funny thing about it, actually, when I'm in the studio, I still like to have that analog sound, especially
Oh,
when
me
it comes
too.
down to certain drums and bass,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. I still kind of like to have that mixture with
Mm-hmm.
that analog in there. But I want
Mm-hmm.
to say, even with Alicia's a professional comedian. And the thing is, what you're saying about music, it's the same thing about entertainment. It's being able to make that connection,
Mm-hmm.
because music is a connection. It's a language that connects the entire world, all of us. I can't
Mm-hmm.
even imagine anybody who can't say I don't like music. Somebody likes
Mm-hmm.
some type of music,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and we all operate by a pulse, and music is part of that pulse. To be honest with you, I couldn't even imagine. Could you imagine being on this planet, living in this world where music was banned?
Oh,
There was no. I
that's
couldn't even
no,
imagine that.
I can't even.
no,
I just couldn't even imagine that, because
no,
it's so much of it's our soul.
no. It's
Yeah.
a powerful organism that keeps a sense of spiritual life in everybody.
It's true.
It's the
Yeah.
light.
It
Yeah,
is. It
It is.
is. It is.
yeah.
It's such a powerful force, and certain songs are like indelible in the hippocampus. Like you can remember exactly where you were when you heard this particular
Exactly.
song.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's the power of
That's
music. It's just
that's the point right there.
Hmm.
That's the
You
point
hit it
right
right on
there.
the head, Alicia.
Yeah, you did.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
That's the point.
yeah.
It takes you right back to such and
Right back.
such.
Yep.
And
To
and
that block party.
it's individualized
Basement
because
parties.
Yes.
it's individualized because when you hear something, only you know what you were doing then. You know what I'm saying? It takes you
That's
straight to
right.
that point
That's
Straight
right.
right
back.
then.
That's right. And everybody can have a different memory
Yes.
about the same
Same
exact
song.
song.
Yeah.
The same exact song. It is
Yeah.
so awesome. I
Yeah.
know some song, I'm like, that's that Cleveland baseboard song. That's that Saturday morning clean the house. Get your butt
Yeah.
out the bed.
Yeah. But
Oh my gosh.
let me say this before we go too. In terms of music being different now, I feel like it's not the kids' fault or the young youth's fault. I feel like it's our fault because I feel like we've dropped the ball
Mm,
and
pass it
delivering
on.
it to the next generation.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean
Hmm.
it in a way that that everybody's eye is on the music,
right.
and the music is not really what's important. That'll always be there. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's the
Hmm.
forums. The forums is what you have to
Right.
keep alive, you know.
Right.
And right now, live instrumentation, there's nobody coming up with a plan to keep that in the forefront, you
Mm-mm.
know.
Mm-mm.
And it's
Nope.
not going to
No.
happen.
It's
It's not
not.
going to happen.
No.
No kid
It's
is going
not.
to wake up talking about pass me a bass or pass
Right.
me a horn. Nobody's going to
No.
do that,
Nope.
you
Everybody
No.
know.
playing now is in the church, honestly, and
It's
that's
the church
Yeah.
that's keeping
good.
music alive today. If
Yep.
it wasn't
It
for the
really
Hmm.
church,
is.
there would be no music.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
the church that's keeping
That's
it
true.
alive because jazz keeps it alive as well. But jazz is not big. Jazz is a musician and a jazz lover forum. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
But church is just church. You know. So
Well, Mr. Johnny Crewman, it's been my sincere pleasure and our
oh,
sincere pleasure having you with
Yes.
us
It really
today.
has
I
been.
love this dialogue. I love this conversation. You're right across the bridge. I'm from the Philly Annex known as Camden. So
okay.
listening to all of the same things. I know with your vast history, I know I've probably seen you live somewhere. So shout out to you and thank you so much again for joining us. Do you have any final words or a shout out or anything you want to say to our audience before we get up out of here?
Well, I'll say two things. One is I'm the minister of music over the church in Camden at
What?
New Mickle.
What?
So I'm sure you may
Wow.
know that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is uh, none of us are better than any of us, but it takes each of us to help all of us.
Amen.
And I'll leave you with that.
Thank you.
Amen.
To God
Amen.
be
It's
the
a
glory.
To God be the
Give you
glory. It's a
glory.
pleasure to have had a chance to meet you, Mr. Croon.
My pleasure.
Yes.
My
Miss
pleasure.
Alicia,
Yes.
who you want to shout out and how you want to end this thing for us today?
Yeah, I'm just this was just such a great episode. I wasn't even prepared for that. But yeah, uh happy Easter Sunday to everybody, Easter weekend to everybody, and may your
Uh-oh.
Uh
She
oh.
froze us on
The
again.
Bruins got
just
her
keep up with
again.
all of
I'll
us
tell you.
on our different.
Uh oh.
Okay, you know what? This is what I'm going to do, Alicia. I'm going to. We didn't get a chance to play any of the videos promoting Johnny's accolades, so this is what we're going to do. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and play this video of Aaliyah and with
Mm,
Johnny that played, and this is a really nice track that Johnny did back in the day. And I'm going to go ahead and play this real quick. And
one
Alicia,
second,
go ahead and
AJ.
check this out. Go ahead, Shonda.
Before we go, I just got some troubling news that I just saw, but everybody just prayers up for DMX. Allegedly, he's in the hospital. They think he's brain dead. So just send
All
prayers
right,
out
Ooh,
to
I'm
him
back. I'm back.
right now.
okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sean. I didn't even know that. You just found
Yeah,
that out?
I just saw that. So just, pray for him and his family.
Okay.
Said it's an overdose. So I didn't read the whole thing, but I just peeked at it.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Damn, DMX too. It's another, another
Wow.
iconic artist.
I didn't mean
But
to bring us
anyway,
down, but just want to, put that in our collective spirit.
Absolutely.
Sense of
What
yeah, we'll put it in
happened?
our
Because
prayers.
my Wi-Fi
Alicia,
went out.
yeah, Alicia didn't
DMX
catch it.
is in the hospital in critical condition with
Oh,
an overdose. They say they think he might be brain dead. So I didn't get to read all the details, but just keep
oh
him.
no! I produced his reality show for BET.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow, you see, it's
Yeah,
such a small world. You see all this happening, just the four
Wow.
of
yeah,
us, just a small
yeah,
world.
yeah.
I'm going to switch out because this is one of my favorites, and he's somebody that's not around anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and end this show with Teddy Pendergrass with Joy, because that is just somebody, man. That's just always going to be on the forefront as far as I'm concerned. And Johnny, thank you so much, man. And this is how we're going to end this. So listen to this, enjoy this with Teddy Pendergrass, Joy, and this is how we're going to end our weekend. I want everybody to have a great weekend. I want everybody to stay safe, stay sanitized, and stay smart. And continue to listen to Johnny Croon, man, because that man is definitely he is
Wow.
the
Thank
truth.
you.
This is what you call
Thanks
real
for the kind
music, real
words.
reality. So we're going to end it with Teddy Pendergrass, Joy, and this is live on the Max Mobile Celebrity Podcast.
From the Wilshire.
Here we go.
Joy, joy to be dead, so joy to be dead, can't you see just how much you mean to me? In a early time of day, I get such a rush, way to feel your tender touch. Magic moment paradise, oh baby, but it's too damn short to let you be. Never say I need your love, oh baby, there's no greater pleasure than it. Yeah, baby, I want you to know it's a joy to be here. Baby, it's a joy, oh baby, joy to be here, baby.
Hear that, Johnny? Hear that pop? That's what I love about them drums, man. It's that bottom.
I'm playing the percussions and keyboards on this gig.
Oh, playing keys. Okay.
Keys and percussions. I played drums with Teddy, but not for this here concert. That's actually Teddy's original drum.
Joy to be baby, such joy, oh baby, joy to be. I got to have it. I want you. Such joy, oh baby, joy to be. I got to have it. Come on, joy, oh baby, joy to be. Baby, I want you. We're meant to be, and I know we can win. At times I feel like a kid on a Ferris wheel. You make my world go round and around. So much to live on, and I'm living it now. You know what I'm saying? This is how it goes. You think you can talk about it? I know you know about it. You want to show off? I think you can show off. All right? Come on. Here we are. All right. You ready? Look up. You know what? James will go. Do it. There you go. Joy. Have you with me? Have you with me? Such a joy. Oh, joy. Have you with me?
Okay, everybody, we got to go. I want to say thank you, everybody. Thank you, Johnny Crone. Thank you,
My
Shonda.
pleasure.
Thank you, Alicia. We're looking forward
Thank
to
you.
speaking to you guys again. I want everybody, once again, have a great weekend, man. And thank you for joining the Max Mobile Celebrity Podcast. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now, take care.
Bye bye.